So let's talk about employee relations. And, this touches quite a bit on ethics and on how we actually treat our employees and how important that is. So, building positive employee relations is ethics, employee fairness, employee safety. And because employers haven't always known how to do this appropriately, or they've cut corners, or because we've had a historical past that hasn't always served us well, we have unions. So we'll talk about union relations as well. So the main purpose of this chapter is to explain the building blocks of positive employee relations. We'll talk about employee relations. Managing employee relations, ethical behavior, and fair disciplinary practices. So employee relations is the managerial activity that involves establishing and maintaining the positive employee-employer relationships that contribute to satisfactory productivity, motivation, morale, and discipline, and to maintaining a positive, productive, and cohesive work environment. Employers can do many things to build positive employee relations. Some examples could be good training, fair appraisals, competitive pay, competitive benefits, and all of this we've already talked about. Most employers also have special employee relations programs to ensure that they are maintaining positive employee relations. So this could include employee fair treatment programs, improving employee relations through improved communications, developing employee recognition and relations programs, and having something maybe fair and predictable disciplinary procedures. So methods for managing these employee relations. We'll begin with how to ensure fair treatment. Anyone who has suffered unfair treatment at work knows it is demoralizing. Unfair treatment reduces morale, poisons trust, and negatively impacts employee relations and performance. Employees of abusive supervisors are more likely to quit and to report lower job and life satisfaction and higher stress. The effects on employees of such abusiveness are particularly pronounced where the abusive supervisors seem to have support from higher ups. At work, fair treatment reflects concrete actions such as employees are treated with respect and employees are treated fairly. There are many reasons why managers should be fair. The golden rule is the obvious reason. What may not be so obvious is that unfairness can backfire on the company. For example, victims of unfairness exhibit more workplace deviance, such as theft and sabotage. Victims of unfairness also suffer a range of ill effects, including poor health, strain, and psychological conditions. Unfairness leads to increased tension between the employee and his or her family partner. Abusive supervisors undermine their subordinates' effectiveness and may prompt them to act destructively. So you can see it's like it's one thing after another, right? So in terms of employee relations, employees' perceptions of fairness relate positively to enhanced employee commitment, enhanced satisfaction with the job, with the company, job, and leader, and enhanced organizational citizenship behaviors. The employer and the manager are responsible for ensuring that the employee then is treated right, is treated fairly and with respect. How about bullying and victimization? Some workplace unfairness, such as bullying, is blatant. Bullying and victimization, or signaling someone out to harass and mistreat, is a serious problem. The US government has a website, stopbullying.gov, says most would agree that bullying involves three things: imbalance of power, intent to cause harm, and repetition. So imbalance of power, people who bully use their power to control or harm the people, and the people being bullied may have a hard time defending themselves. Intent to cause harm, actions done by accident are not bullying. The person bullying has a goal to cause harm. Repetition. Incidents of bullying happen to the same person over and over by the same person or group, and that bullying can take many forms, such as verbal, like name calling and teasing; social, spreading rumors, leaving people out on purpose, breaking up friendships; physical, hitting, punching, shoving; or cyberbullying, using the internet, mobile phones, or other digital technologies to harm others. Improving employee relations through communication programs. Many employers use communication programs to bolster their employee relations efforts and to be kept in the loop. So building two-way communication helps managers know what's bothering employees. And they can do this through hosting employee focus groups, making available ombudspersons, suggestion boxes, implementing telephone messaging or website hotlines, or suggestion boxes. I already said that. Having exit interviews to discuss why the person is leaving, having open door policies, or that management by walking around, that informal asking employees how things are going. Organizational climate surveys. Employers use attitude, morale, or climate surveys to support employee relations efforts. They use the surveys to take the pulse of their employees' attitudes towards a variety of organizational issues. Develop employee recognition, relations programs. So service awards programs, reviewing tenure of existing employees, establishing meaningful award periods such as 1 year, 5 year, 10, etc., and having recognition programs can be very important to employees. Use employee involvement programs to build employee relations and help employees be involved in a positive way. So focus groups and social media is one of the ways that you keep employees involved in that way. You can also have special teams that help gain employee involvement. You could have suggestion teams. Employers could formalize something like a problem-solving team or quality circles, or self-managing or self-directing work teams, and using suggestion systems to gather data and then take action on it. How about ethical behavior then? So Wall Street Journal Workplace Ethics, people face ethical choices every day. So the Wall Street Journal places this workplace ethics quiz. And the question is it wrong to use a company credit card for personal purchases? Is a $50 gift to a client unacceptable? So you would answer these questions and compare your answers. So ethics are principles of conduct governing an individual or a group, the principles people use to decide what the conduct should be. Of course, not all conduct involves ethics. Most everyone reading the text rightfully feels or views themselves as ethical people. So why include ethics in human resource management? Good question. There are 3 reasons. First, ethics is not theoretical. Second, it's hard to even imagine an unethical company with good employee relations. And third, ethical dilemmas are part of the human resource management. We deal with it all the time. So although ethics, fairness, and morality help govern how employers treat their employees, the enforceable rights embedded in employment law are also govern what employers and employees can do. So then what shapes ethical behavior at work? There are 3 factors that combine to determine ethical choices we make. 1, the person. So there's a theory that says bad apples or people who are inclined to make unethical choices must deal with bad cases. So ethical situations, the bad cases that are ethical situations that are ripe for unethical choices. So if you have a bad apple, they're going to lead into a bad case. And while working in bad barrels, the company environments that foster or condone unethical choices, then people tend to act unethically. Okay. And so what makes bad apples? First, because people bring to their jobs their own ideas of what is morally right or wrong, each person must shoulder much of the credit or the blame for his or her ethical choices. So which ethical situations make for ethically dangerous situations? Bad cases, right? So people seem more likely to do the wrong thing in less serious situations. In other words, the problem is the one thing leading to another. People start by doing small bad things, then graduate to larger ones. And then the bad barrels, the outside factors that mold ethical choices. So the study found that some companies produce more poisonous social environments, outside factors or barrels, than do others. These bad environments in turn foster unethical choices. Those that encouraged employees to consider the well-being of everyone had more ethical choices. Most importantly, companies whose managers put in place a strong ethical culture that clearly communicates the range of acceptable and unacceptable behavior suffered fewer unethical decisions. How any manager can create more ethical environments. So if people did unethical things at work solely for personal gain or because they were bad people, it perhaps would be understandable, though inexcusable. The scary thing is that it's only often not personal interest, but the pressures of the job. So make it clear what's okay and what's not okay. If your company has an ethics code, make it clear you take it seriously. If there is no code, show by your own actions and words what's acceptable and not acceptable. So model the desired behavior, walk the talk. Take it seriously. Investigate ethics-related accusations rigorously and make sure you correct the problems. So how can human resource managers then create more ethical environments? You institute ethical policies and codes. You enforce the rules. You encourage whistleblowers. You foster an ethical culture. You hire right. You use ethics training. You use rewards and discipline. And you institute employee privacy policies. So step after step after step, HR is molding the ethical behavior of the corporation. So this is a sample email monitoring acknowledgement statement that an employee would sign. I understand that XYZ company periodically monitors any email communication created, sent, or retrieved using this company's email system. So if I use the company's email, they have the right to monitor, okay? It might make me think twice about what I write in the company's email. Okay. Then fair disciplinary practices. Managing employee discipline. The purpose of discipline is to encourage employees to behave sensibly at work, where sensible means adhering to rules and regulations. So discipline is necessary when an employee violates a rule. Proper disciplinary procedures are important for several reasons. For one, positive employee relations require trust, and few personnel actions will undermine trust, as will arbitrary discipline. So there are three pillars of fair discipline. One is clear communication on the rules and regulations. Two is having progressive penalties. So a first infraction or a small infraction has a small penalty, and it goes up from there. And then having an appeals process in place. So if it comes to this, how do you discipline an employee? Number one, make sure the evidence supports the charge of employee wrongdoing. Okay, you have to double check your facts. Then number two, adequately warn the employee of the disciplinary consequences of his or her alleged misconduct. And number three, the employee have the employee sign the form, okay? So those are your main steps that you would take. How do you discipline an employee? This is a report of employee discipline, and you can see this form better in full size in your textbook. So how do you discipline an employee? You do it in love and kindness. So number one, The rule that allegedly was violated should be reasonably related to the effect and safe operation of the particular work environment. Number 2, objectively investigate the matter. Number 3, the investigation should produce substantial evidence of the misconduct. And number 4, apply applicable rules, orders, or penalties without discrimination. You can't let one person get away with it and punish the next one. So how do you discipline an employee? Continued. You make sure to protect the employee's due process rights. You maintain the employee's right to counsel. You keep their dignity. You listen to what the person has to say, and you use burden of proof, and that is the employer's burden of proof. Then you gather facts. Do not act while you are angry. Give it time. It's not going away. And then you discipline in kindness. So discipline without punishment. Issue an oral reminder. Should another incident arise, issue a formal written reminder and place it in the personnel file. Give a decision-making leave. Dismissal if the behavior repeats. And purge the paid suspension if no further incidents. So answer the question, how do companies become best companies to work for? The Great Place to Work Institute has a series of very, very informative how-tos. And so if you look at Fortune and Forbes, they both have a list of companies. And then there is a criteria of how these were selected. And it might be very interesting for you to spend some time and study these in your own time and become familiar with the differences between them. Maybe go down the rabbit hole, if you will, of the industries that interest you and study them and learn about them so that when you are out there job hunting, you are better prepared to talk about these issues with them. So a best company human resource philosophy. There are several things that any manager intent on building positive employee relations can learn from studying any of these best companies to work for. So maybe the most important thing a manager can glean from these 3 companies listed is the human resource philosophy on which they build their human resource management practices. Their managers work hard to cultivate trust and to measure the employees, measure that they are treated fairly. And they all exhibit a deep and evident respect for their employees and to putting employees first. One of the things molding your own philosophy is that your organization is that top management in your organization. While it may or may not be stated, it is usually communicated by their actions and permeates every level of the department.